Greetings. In our last episode, Rorik and Martin faced off against the Rat King, a five-bodied, five-headed rat creature that could cast mesmerizing illusion magic. The battle was a bit back and forth, but was perhaps turning against our heroes when the Rat King challenged Martin to a tavern game to test their wits and luck against one another. Martin won, at which time the Rat King whispered in his ear and then disappeared, ending the curse on the basement and the plague of giant rats. Now, the heroes are left in the basement with the remains and the aftermath of their adventure. Welcome to episode 8, Tidying Up. So I think Rorik and Martin are absolutely going to take the body back. Bodies need to be buried in Bostonia. Not necessarily buried. There's any number of ways to dispose of a body, but in any fantasy world where there is a non-zero chance that your dead loved ones will come back to life to kill you, taking care of the body is actually something of importance. So bodies are never just left out. In fact, there's a lot of Bostonian quote-unquote legends and lore around sites of great battlefields that then became sites of undead infestations because the bodies could not be adequately cared for in a reasonable amount of time. So bodies left to rot away into the sun and the soil are often considered, to be susceptible to dark forces calling them back to life. And so typically you're going to cremate a body, consigning it to the sun. You're going to bury a body at sea, consigning it to the mother, or you're going to bury it in consecrated ground, assuming that the consecration and the holy water and the prayers will stop the body from ever being raised. Other things that are done is locking bodies in crypts, of course, or under giant sarcophagi with heavy lids in hopes that the dead will not be able to get out of their interment. But obviously, it is always considered better to have buried him on consecrated ground. But actually, burning or burying at sea is better when it can be managed, which is not all the time. So, in this case, they'll probably bring it back. Now, the question here would be, is there even a parish priest? If there's a parish priest here at the inn, at Sendel's Rest, then perhaps there is a graveyard already, and they can just bury him. Otherwise, they will probably build a funeral pyre and burn him. So I do think that Rorik and Martin are going to drag the corpse back. And so they do that, of course. Before they actually get all the way back, I think Rurik's like, hey, kids, stop. Let's, we don't know what this guy was into. And so let's take a quick look now. And then no one is going to, there'll be no questions as to its ownership or moral suitability or, anything like that. And I think although Rorik's beating around the bush a little bit, Martin sort of understands, right? He doesn't want the innkeeper saying, "Oh, that was mine. This guy stole that," or say the matron of the Temple of Estra saying, "No, you cannot have that cool magical mouse necklace or whatever." But not that he has one. But in case there was something like that, it would behoove our heroes to have pocketed it before they get back under the watchful eye of anyone else. And so they will search our guys' things before the Piper's things before they get back. So let's put in our game notes what the Piper has. We'll actually get to these perk options in a moment. So we'll put the Piper's Loot. Piper's Loot. I'll put that in air quotes because it ain't that great. So he has 62 silver pennies. So 62 Bostonian bucks. That's not great, but I mean, it gives each of them about a month's worth of sort of low grade living. So I think they'll be happy with that. There are 4 pieces of glowing quartz. Even glowing, I mean, you might be able to, if you get this, if the quartz is cut and then is still glowing, you may be able to maybe sell that to a jeweler in a city for a little bit. Quartz itself is absolutely not that valuable when it comes right down to it on a ounce per ounce basis. Martin might actually be able to grind this up and use it in to assist in his alchemy. So maybe he uses it for that. But they could decide to keep it and try to make do in Salem with it if they're heading to Salem. He has chalk. That's literally probably something like 2 bits worth. Let's say 3 pieces for 3 bits. Probably what he used to draw the symbols on the ground. He has 7 pieces of hard candy. And again, that's probably all told a couple bits. He has a weird bone flute cracked. What bones? What kind of bones? So it looks like a bunch of small animal bones were cracked and sharded and then fused together with some mysterious process. The result is a bone flute that looks like it's almost shattering, right? But it isn't. It's still held together. And then actually some regional maps. And I would, as a GM, tell we'll say it's +1 to navigate checks in the Fowler and Barony. So that's probably the most valuable thing they have. Oh, well, there's one last thing. It's a so there is a scroll, if I could spell it right, with instructions to cast the ritual spell Summon Rat King. Now, neither character has rituals, so they actually can't read any of this scroll. I do believe I would give them, first off, they can still read a title or probably some notes. So what I imagine is there's a bunch of notes on this scroll that the Piper wrote, symbols to go in the arcade, in the circle, blah 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 blah, right? You need some of this, some of that, and then there's the magical script they can't read. Oh, there is also one other thing, and this is again an iron ring. That might be like 2 to 5 pennies at most. And like the iron ring and the flute and the chalk and the hard candy are all somehow listed here as items, right, that are on this scroll. But again, the actual sort of ritual words, etc., the invocation is unknown to either of these. You would need the rituals skill. So rituals, so there is runic magic. So you get a rune like the hand of lightning, or you get the sacred falls of Estra, and you have then an innate ability to cast. Ritual magic is way closer to D&D ritual magic. But there are some rituals that are fast, but they typically require components, material components, whereas 99 times out of 100, rune magic doesn't require material components, but ritual magic does. It usually takes a long time to cast. That's not always the case. Depends on the spell. You learn it by spell, pretty much. Each spell has to just be found and learned, and so on. And then, so they don't have rituals, so they're not going to be able to cast this or learn this. But they do recognize that there's at least some value. But again, so there's two things here. First off, you're going to have to go somewhere where there's a mage who knows rituals and wants to summon a rat king. That's not necessarily high, that's not a high percentage of places in the world. The second thing, and this probably plays on Martin's mind more than Rorik's right now, is that the Rat King is here to give knowledge of a certain thing. Is that the same knowledge that Martin got from the Rat King? Or can you ask it a specific question and you can ask it a different question? So I do think there's a little bit of that where it's like Martin's like, well, should we sell this? Because if someone uses it, then they're going to know what I know. And we'll talk about, I hope we'll talk about that a little later. So they do have that. So that's the guy's stash. There's like a little bit of food down here and some grain, which is also mentioned in the ritual that you need like a sack of grain. There's some beer down here in the casks, but again, that probably is stolen out of the basement. So they're not even going to bother with that. So they're going to bring the Piper's body back after looting him and tell Matron Mary and Innkeeper Simon sort of what happened and, except the part where, Martin engaged in discourse with the Rat King, since that could be seen as a little shady. So they'll say they defeated the Rat King. And, of course, they will now expect recompense from the innkeeper for solving their problem because, as they said, all the rats scattered. And I am going to roll for those. I'm going to roll Intimidate and Trade again. So I do think, when the innkeepers, of course, as we agreed, 35 coins each. And I think Rurik's like, no. He's like, what do you mean? No. When I said the price went up, old man, I meant the price went up. Well, I mean, that's absurd. That's highway robbery. And he goes, well, Rurik, I don't know about that, sir. I mean, you said even yourself that the road wardens were threatening to shut you down. Would you like them to know that you had an infestation of giant rats in the basement? Would you like me to go up and tell the Lord upstairs about the place he's staying? Right, so he gives them that kind of deal. So we're going to give him the Intimidate. Now I'm going to put the character sheets up. I also have the character sheets here because I have been doing a terrible job at monitoring their checks and experience. And so I just want to make sure that I get that right. So I do see that we have a final value Intimidate of 11 for Rurik. And so we are going to roll a skill check. I'm going to say that the base DL is 8. I think it's an easy argument. I really do. One. So he does okay. So he gets a 12. His total's 12 versus the DL of 8. So yeah, I think I think the innkeeper is gonna be very prone to Martin's trade. Now again, Martin's trade is 11 again. We'll say his trade is the innkeeper's is 10. But with Rorik's sort of poking, right? We'll give Martin an extra +2 there. He does roll a -5. So the total there, so Martin's total is what? 11, 14 +2 is 16. The innkeeper's is still an 18. So we did miss. So the innkeeper seems a little reluctant to budge on the money situation. Now, I did sort of end the adventure, per se, and sort of gave everybody a little bit of experience. I gave free checks, and so I did also give everybody their inspiration back. Probably a little premature, and I erased everybody's injury, even though, again, that's premature. Theoretically, they would have a week or two of resting to deal with. Why don't we? But you know what? Martin's going to burn an inspiration. Now, so this is gone. This is gone for the rest of the session. So if we fight later, he's burned it on hopefully squeezing cash out of this old man. Let's remember that, what Martin's priorities are. Okay, so he actually rolls much better. Okay, so I'm gonna say, so with that's a 4 up. So Martin has an 11. 11 plus 5 is 15. Plus the extra 2 is 17. And then the innkeeper gets an 11. So he beats him by 6. I'm going to say that Martin indeed goes back to almost the original. He doubles the price. He's like, so instead of $35 a piece, which was sort of the original traded idea. So here's what we're gonna do for them. I'm gonna give them, so their reward is, we'll give them $75 a piece. And room and board, but there's probably some stipulations. I can't imagine the innkeeper's going to be like, yeah, you can stay here anytime you want. I don't think anytime you want is actually a thing. I think it's going to be one private room that has to be shared. It's shared by the two of them. Up to 6 months per year, 1 month on, then off. Now, they're not going to, I assume that the innkeeper assumes they're not going to stay here 6 months out of the year. And then you can't bump an existing paying customer. So if the inn is full, they have to sleep in the common room. 3 meals per day, 1 drink per meal. Otherwise, you pay for your drinks. Done. And they'll probably write this agreement up. Like this actually, this will not be, they will get Mother Mary to sign it as a witness. Martin can certainly read and write. Mother Mary can probably read and write. So they might actually either write 2 copies and give 1 to each, the innkeeper and them, or they could possibly seal it, get some wax, right, and seal it, and then they would post it or nail it on a post in the inn, literally sort of marking that as a permanent agreement between the innkeeper and one or, his patrons, as it were. In this case, these guys. So this gives them a base of operations, at least. So that's nice. Oh, $70. I didn't say 75. $70. Double the 35. This gives them a nice base of operations. I think if they want to come back here, this isn't a real great place, but you never know. They might be able to use it as a little bit of a home away from home. So I think that's their reward. So with that and the 31 silver pennies, they each get 101 silver pennies. So let's write that on their sheet. He has 20 pennies. He now has 121. We have to be a little bit careful, and I will redo their weight at some point. because 160 is a kilogram. And then he also gives them 6 more, so he has 127. And then Martin has 101, so 116 plus 5 of that is 121. And he has 21 bits, which is a little bit annoying. He does have an ornamental stone that he doesn't know what it is. And of course, the quartz. So I have distributed the silver. I have distributed that silver. So they've gotten their silver. So what I think they're going to do is, at some point, they're going to be like, yeah, we need to take care of this body, of course. They will probably, oh, God. They're probably tired and exhausted, but so they'll probably rest, and we don't need to worry about this too much. Like, this is a little bit of a goofy detail. They will probably cover the body somewhere, wrap it in cloth tightly, put it into like a wagon or something in a field or underneath, like right in somewhere where it's away from prying eyes, and then they will probably. So good question. Is there a parish priest here? I'm going to say, where are my D12? Well, I have one D12. I should turn on my camera. I have a giant D12. I have little ones, which I can't find. I'll have to pause and find them. For this, I'm just going to roll my big D12. So let's say on a 1 and 4, they have a priest here and a little church. And they got a 2. So they do have a little priest and a church here. And I am going to need to figure out the name of that. So there is a church in the inn. Sendel's Rest. We do have a small parish church. I don't have a good saint for this, so we're just going to say that it's going to be the Church of the Warm Hearth. And Father Wendell is the presiding. So the nice thing here is so that's good and bad for the local residents. It's good. Obviously, they want their, they certainly want a priest around. It probably means there's more religious obligations for them day to day, but it also avoids. So if they did not have a parish priest here, they would probably be expected to go to the nearest church, the nearest village with one, and that could be a couple hours away. Every Sunday, probably they would be up at the crack of dawn, drive 2 hours, say mass, come back, that kind of thing. It would be a day of it, right? So Father Wendell, so they've probably so the nice thing is there's probably a graveyard, a small graveyard then, consecrated by Father Wendell and looked after by the father. And so they could just go bury him. So they don't need to do any of this. They'll just go bury him that night. Even though they're exhausted. And then they will spend some time recuperating and replenishing supplies here. So let's figure out what that downtime looks like for Rorik and Martin. So I definitely think that Martin is going to have to do alchemy. So he's going to replenish his spells. For certain. So they do get. I am going to give them checks because I forgot again. So you see, the problem is when I have to switch screens all the time to go back and forth, it then becomes hard to remember what I'm doing. Whereas if I have the papers right in front of me, so I'm going to give an intimidate check to Rorik, and I'm going to give a trade check to Martin. I am going to then so let's deal with Martin first. I think Rorik is actually going to mostly rest and recuperate. He's got the most injury, and maybe even his downtime. I give him maybe one extra free check. But for Martin, I think Martin wants to make. So we're going to do some alchemy. So again, I apologize. It's going to be a little bit mechanical. So our alchemy is an 11. The DL of the spell he wants to cast is 10. In fact, all his spells are 10 because they're all first tier spells. So we would like to try to do an Iron Skin. I think Iron Skin was actually the most bang for our buck these combats. So we're going to roll our 11 versus a 10. So let's pop our skill roll here. We get a minus flippin' 8. Holy crap. So presumably there's not a lot of reagents here. And so we're actually going to blow it by what, 7 points? So a really, really bad roll. We could, again, we might use inspiration just to not start off on that bad a foot, even though it will burn it all. So we're going to roll again, and we get a 6 this time. So way, way better. So our inspiration is 0. And we got 1. So Iron Skin. And so the question is, are we going to try to sell the so we cast that, and if you cast by 3 or more, you do not lose levels in your skill. So we did. We made that by 7. Having said that, alchemy always loses a level because it has what's called expenditure. So you always lose a level every time you create a potion. And then we would have to write down, we lost 1 level doing a tier 1 spell, and that costs us X amount of cash. Where is it? Bostonia Alchemy Notes. So, right, so every successful cast creates a potion. All potions have a delivery method. That's not really an issue. Potions can be stored, handed to team members, sold, etc. Is there a shelf life? I haven't answered that question yet. There is expenditure, meaning every failure or success, you lose the level +1. Because he succeeded by 3 or more, he loses 0 levels, but he always loses 1. Some potions require special ingredients. We don't got that. But I am going to say, so with an alchemy check, so we do get a check because we did successfully cast. Let's say with another alchemy check, and this will be a DL8, he can use the quartz, so he does succeed, so he can use the quartz if he wants to. So he can grind the quartz up, and he could then use that to substitute for 4 levels, 4 times. So it's like essentially selling that quartz for 40 pennies. He gets 4 levels of expenditure that he can just ignore. So I'm going to say he does that because otherwise, alchemy's expensive, and I don't even know if it's balanced yet. So I will be totally honest with you. I am, just working this out as we go. So we're going to burn 1 of the quartz. And so we don't lose a level. So we still have an 11. So we want to make another Iron Skin. We got a 0. So we're casting in an 11 versus a 10. So we get a 0. So that means, well, it's 11 to a 10. So we actually do succeed. And we would lose a level because we didn't succeed by 3. And we would lose a level because of alchemy's expenditure. We're going to get a second Iron Skin. So here, I'll mark that on the game notes here. So you can sort of follow along maybe. So we got and we're still not doing. I'll get to the perk options here in a minute. I really should have done that before, really. So Martin does alchemy, and he uses the quartz to ignore 4 levels of expenditure. So yeah, I had all kinds of so full disclosure, I had a super complicated alchemy system in the first version of Runebearer, and it was really cool. People really loved it, but no one ever played it. So people were like, "Oh, I love your alchemy. It's so detailed and it's so cool." And no one played it. And the answer was, "Well, yeah, but it's because it's a pain in the ass. Because being that detailed and so on was annoying unless you occasionally got one player that was so into it, but that would be their game. It would consume them. Like they would, right, they'd be continuously searching for stuff, continuously trading with other alchemists. It was a game within a game. um this is alchemy is way closer to what normal magic is, but a little weaker, but with the caveat that it's a commercial venture. You could make money off it. And the idea of being able to say, create some nasty potion, give one to all your friends, and they all toss it on the first round is probably ultimately, I think alchemy is going to be overpowered, to be honest. So he creates 2, and so far he has used up 1 tier 1 level. So yeah, -1 tier 1. So his casting skill is now 10. But he doesn't lose the second level due to expenditure, so he's used up 2 of the quartz. Right? Yeah, 2 of the quartz. Now his level is down to 10. So his alchemy is now 10. Um, so -1 level. So now he's at alchemy 10. So now he's going to get a heal. He's going to try for a heal. He's now even up. He gets a -6. Well, that's going to be 2 levels plus a third level. And that's a failure. So he's going to go down to 7. I'm not even going to burn the quartz. And this could go could go poorly. And again, I'm not sure it's balanced yet, so we're working on that. Fails at heal. -3 levels. And we know they're tier 1 levels, -1 level. So you lose a level here. Down to alchemy 10. He's now down to alchemy 7. And that's going to cost him 30. Those 4 levels are going to cost him $40 to get back. And I'm going to leave that to just the idea that there's just not a good. There just aren't a ton of materials here that he can utilize. So we're gonna give. I'm gonna. That's it. I'm done. So my alchemy is at a 7. I still have 2 quartz left. I'll write that on my sheet. Hell, I'll put it on the sheet. There you go. I won't even write it. I'll just put it on the sheet. So I have 2x quartz, and we'll mark that they can be used as alchemy level. Right. So done. So we got 2 quartz. We did get 2 iron skin, which we're just going to hand to Rorik to carry. Done. And our temporary alchemy is now down to 7. But we did get a check in it. So yay. I'm going to put a little check in there. And then we'll put a 7. No, I don't like any of that. Okay, good enough. Um, I don't like that either, by the way. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. There, that's better. Okay. But I think he's done. So I think he's done with alchemy. And he could pay the $40 now. And I think we will. So he'll be down to $81. And he's back to 11. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay. But he gives the iron skins to Rourke. Let me write that down on Rourke's sheet because Rourke's the one who's going to use them. And he did actually use them to pretty good. I'll redo weights and so on here later. Every so often, so I know no one really wants to keep track of encumbrance moment to moment. So every couple sessions, I'll just go, okay, encumbrance check time. Tell me what you're carrying. And they'll recalculate their weight real quick at the beginning of the night and done. So, okay, so that is alchemy. So that is alchemy. And as I said, so we're done, pay $40. Okay? And then Martin will do herbalism. So he'll go out, say maybe 3 days. They're going to stay like a week or so, easy, maybe more. But they're going to stay for a little bit of time, and that'll get the innkeeper's ire a little bit because I think he wants to see the rear end of these two out the door sooner than later, just because, right? Because they sort of remind him that they had something over him a little bit. I think that gets the innkeeper's goat a tiny bit. I'm gonna have to write like reputation. We should keep like a reputation log somewhere. Here, let me put that rep log. So reputation log. I think Matron Mary has is impressed with how they've handled themselves, right? +1. I think innkeeper Simon of Sendel's Rest is, I mean, he did something for him, so they're right, but I think he's a little bit perturbed at how this all ended up. So I'm going to actually give him a -1, even though they did a thing for him. I think he's a little bit pissed, and we'll use that if they actually need to do a social check that doesn't involve antagonizing him, then I think that'll definitely come. That'll be a minus to them. So to do herbalism, quote unquote. So here's our herbalism notes. So here's our herbalism rule. So herbalism is it's almost like an alchemy, but all the effects are, I mean, I think they start out similar, and then alchemy will get more powered over time, and herbalism stays about the same, right? A lot of minor buffs and minor effects and so on. So we do foraging for herbs, and we forage for herbs. We can do a day-long action. That gives us 1d4 plus 1 attempts at a DL based on the terrain. So this is probably grassland. There's probably some light woods around. So DL 10, and we can roll from 2 to 5 times a day. And as we roll for 2 to 5 times a day, when we succeed, we get to roll on the herb table. And I made 36 herbs that do different things. And the reason I made 36 is so it could be a 6x6 table, right? So we could roll 2d6. And then it's a little easier when I add herbs. As long as I can add 6 of them, I can just add a new table. And so, although don't get me wrong, that's a little clunky because I don't have a D. Actually, strangely enough, I do own 2 D7s. I do own D7s because I love dice and I'm weird that way. D7s are stupid, and I don't know if they're actually fair dice, the dice I have, but I do have 2d7s. I won't roll them though. I'll just roll a d8 and re-roll 8s. That's super easy. So you get then rolls on this table if you succeed, and then every time you succeed, you get 1d4 doses of whatever it is. Most herbs have a use, just something you can do. So belchberry cures like common stomach ailments and hiccups. But you also can use your herbalism then to create various teas and extracts and oils. And so belchberry tea gives you +1 toughness for a day. Or belchberry extract gives you an immediate save against a disease. But those have a higher DL. And then I put like just a money cost, sort of the retail price kind of thing. So yeah, so that's pretty much how herbalism works. And there's a little bit of wackiness. So for instance, if you were to roll a 4 on your herb getting number of doses you get, then you can go back for more because you found a patch of herbs. And so tomorrow you don't have to roll on the herb table. All your successes, so you make the herbalism check at a +4 to find the patch again. And then all your successes, you can just draw from that set of herbs to just collect as much of that as you can. However, once you roll a 1 on any of those number of doses found, so let's say you succeed 3 times, and you roll a 2, a 4, and a 1, well, then you've depleted the herb patch, and you can no longer go back to that herb patch. Done. And I'll probably put some optional rules in there that if you want to go back next season, like you can literally mark it on your map as the herbalist and so on. So we're going to do herbalism for a couple days around here. So first thing we got to look up is what is Martin's herbalism? Martin's herbalism is 11. So I'm going to give him a DL10 around here. And so there you go. So DL10 versus our 11. So we'll do it for 3 days, we'll say. Because we also have alchemy to do. So day 1. And we get 1d4 plus 1. Attempts, we get 4 attempts. So we get 4 tries. We have an 11 versus a 10. I'm going to move my game notes over here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this. You don't need to see the tavern guys really much anymore, so I'll just move this over a little bit. There you go. And you at least see most of it. So I get 4 shots. I'm 1 up. Ooh, I succeed all of once. 4 tries, 1 success. I find, so we roll 2d6. And I'm going to roll a 5 and a 5. So let's look at the herb table. Now, as I yell into the mic, you could make specific, and I do actually, I'm going to do this at some point in my life, make specific for specific regions of Bostonia. Since some are mountainous, some are cold, some are warmer, you can make different herb tables and so on. So we get regent grass, a delicious spice used in alcoholic beverages and tea. So probably you can probably sell a dose for something like a penny or something. So not a great find, to be quite honest with you. So let's roll 1d4. And we get a 4. So we find a patch of regent grass. Son of a... Okay. Find a patch. Find 4 regent grass. So not much to do. Now we could make the tea. And you could go and sell it. But you'd probably have to sell it to someone who thinks they're going to get poisoned. You probably have to be able to sell it to nobility, right? And that's great, but Martin is not in a position to do that. You know what we're not going to do? We're not going to go back to there. On day 2, we're just going to let the Regent Grass go. And we're going to roll 1d4 plus 1. We get 5 tries. So we're going to roll 5 tries. 1, 2, 3, 5. We get 2 successes. I mean, Martin is bad at his job. 2 success. So he's going to find. So we're going to roll 2d6. He gets 2 and 1, and we're going to do it again, 6 and 4. So let's see what 2 and 1 is. 2 and 1, 2 and 1. Butterfly weed. Finds butterfly weed. So how many butterfly weed? He finds 1 butterfly weed and 1 of the other thing. Wow, he is, again. What is 6 and 4? It's probably amazing, and I already know he only found 1 of it. It's probably great. 6 and 4. 6, 4 is Sunkiss. So Sunkiss has no effect, but you can make it into tea to get a fire damage effect. Again, it's a little bit of a rough haul, and a lot of herbalism is supposed to be just that, very situational. But also, I will say the church will buy the wafers because it's +1 to the next theology check to invoke the power of a saint. So you will find these wafers. They will give them to priests. As part of their, various rituals and mass and so on. So, though it's DL16, that would be actually a fairly good source of income for Martin. Neither of those, he still can go back. He can go back and get the Regent Grass. We're not going to do that, though. So on day 3, we're just going to go one more time here. And we get 4 tries, so that's cool. I mean, he's got that down. And he should be doing a little better. He is up. That's 1 success, 2 successes. So at least he got 2. At least he got half of them. And so he finds 2 and 5 and 2 and 3. Ooh, all on the same little table there. 2 and 5 and 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is Calendine. Oh, I like that. And 2 and 5 is Coal Black. Both of those are actually very good. +1 charisma for an hour doesn't suck. And +1 sneak for 3 hours doesn't suck. And immediate save against poison. I didn't actually put a DL on that, did I? Let's say DL 14. And heck, that is probably something. Let's probably 50 pennies. Just taking a guess. Don't know for sure. You could, yeah. About 40 pennies. We'll still make it a DL 14. So it's a little bit hard to make that because that's a powerful effect, right? You are poisoned. You're like, oh God, I'm going to die. You eat this, you get another immediate save. So it's like saving with advantage, pretty much. How many of each? So how many Calendine does he find? He finds 1. How many of the Coal Black? 3. So 1 Calendine and the Coal Black is 3. Neither of those is. If he would have actually found 4 of one of those, I would have invoked the gone back rules, right? I would go back and do that. So he gets. So Martin does get some packs of herbs here, and let's put those somewhere on his sheet. Rows below. Insert rows below. So he has herbs. So he has 4 Regent Grass. One butterfly weed. Sunkiss. And we'll worry about, like, I mean, that I'll have to figure out how to put what they do. Palandine and Coal Black. And that Coal Black is actually super useful for him. And I would argue that maybe every 4 herbs is about 0.1 kilos. So he's got about 0.2 kilos here, something like that, right? 0.2, 0.25 or thereabouts. And again, we will sum all this up at a later moment. And his potions are actually down. Oh God! I mean, yeah. So all of these are six. There we go. There we go. There we go. And done. All right. I think that's all the herbs. I think that is everything. I think Martin is actually settled and good to go here. Right, so we did alchemy. I do want to do one thing for Rorik. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to say that Rorik hangs out, and he is actually going to very much carouse and hang out, and he's going to spend his cash freely for the week. Though I don't necessarily condone, I don't know if this is a good idea check or not, because he had mostly downtime and he's going to spend $50. I'm going to give him one extra free check, partly because he has had the worst luck on checks. So you'll notice he only has a couple, whereas Martin has a ton. And that is literally because the D20, as I talked to Lewis about in the comments, it is possible for someone to just have some bad luck. Now, usually it averages out, and I assume that it will here too. So we will give Rorik. He just spends that money, and people love him. He will do one thing though. He will actually try to repair his weapon. He doesn't really have a repair kit. But it could just be, or his stuff, his gear checks. I will let's take a quick look. $40 gives him a repair kit, so he'll buy a repair kit. And that gives him 6 uses, and that's $40. So he spent his money pretty hard there. And heck, his coin probably doesn't even weigh that much anymore, just because done. And he'll use one attempt, and he'll roll professional soldier here. So Rorik will roll professional soldier. He succeeds. So we're going to give him a check there. And that gives him, I believe, let's see, what did I say? I think we give him 1d6. So roll 1d6. And he gets 2 gear checks, so he can erase his gear checks, pretty much. Gear checks do stay. Like, they don't go away, unlike fatigue and all the other things that we have, these little mini currencies and so on, all reset. Gear checks do not until the GM invokes them. If the GM points to you and says how many gear checks you got, then you can, you'll be able to get rid of those. Or you can repair at camp, and that will get you, or you can repair in your downtime or whatever, and that will get you the repair. So So that is all their sort of bits. I will say we do need, and I'm a little bit, mm, I'm annoyed a tiny bit at myself because I do have some experiency stuff to do. And so what I want to do is, where did I put it? That's a good question, sir. Good question, sir. Where did you put it? So, oh, right, perks. I wrote it down here. So there you go. So I do have some perk options for them. So every adventure that it completes, what I do is I sit down and go, well, what might be fun? What do I think that they did? And it could be either character. I'm not super picky on who takes what perks. They do cost checks, though, free checks. And so I am very much, even though I wrote these, I am super torn as to whether we should take these or whether we should just, like, for instance, Rurik, just plow free checks into something like tactics or again his or a weapons skill and just hope for the best there. Um, so I did careful thrower for Martin. You only hit your allies on a 1 in 12 when you throw into melee. That costs three free checks. For Rorik, the special one must be all the hair. When you're fighting with Wild Abandon, you get 2 armor value armor on bare skin because I continued to hit his arms. So I figured that would be a good one for him maybe to get. And that would be 3 free checks. So that's, I mean, they tend to cost 2 to 5. And the most expensive ones are the ones where I like, that is just always useful. So you'll notice +1 wit, +1 toughness. Those are 5. Upping your stats, even though that's always like, that would always go for that if it wasn't so expensive. Chewed up, I gave him so +2 hit points for 4 points, which is a little bit expensive for 2 hit points, but um, would it put but but it would put Rorik at a 42, which I think hits the cutoff for 11 as his wound threshold. So that is super efficient for him to get. But there's so many other things. And then Gamble Drat King, that is for Martin. You get the Gamble skill for 3. I don't even, I'll be honest, I don't even think that's a choice at this point. I think so. I think the only one, I mean, and +1 toughness is always good because toughness comes with a hit point no matter what. It doesn't get him to, so notice his toughness is 14. That would get him to a 15, but not a 16. A 16 is where the cutoff happens, where your bonus goes up to +2, and where your die goes up to a D10. Getting to a 16 toughness gives him a D10 shake off, which would just be pretty amazing, actually. Plus, it'd be 2 more hit points, give him 42, which would put him at the cutoff also. So buying that +1 toughness and finding it twice, which is really up to the GM on whether, which is me, strangely enough, on whether we give that or not. But but the only one that I'm actually thinking of taking would be must be all the hair. And I do like naming them. I do. I truly like naming them. Must be all the hair. When you fight with Wild Abandon, you get 2 armor on the bare spots, which would mostly be his arms. The thing is, it's only 2 locations out of 12, but he was hit in them so often that I just almost feel like that's just a given that he should go for that. But I don't know if it's super, super, super useful. I think for so Martin, I think I like careful thrower because again, I don't like hitting my own guy. Don't like it. It's a bad scene. You could really screw him up. Like if he hits him with the ice and chills him, chills Rourke, that could lose a fight. That's just a oops. I'm sorry, I just lost the fight for us. Um, Sort of moment. So I think he does take careful thrower. I think Rorik almost almost makes him learn it. So there you go. Careful thrower. You only hit allies 1 in 12 on throwing, and you lose 3 free checks. Done. And he will spend his last free check in swords. And so we will roll that right now. It's 8 or above. Well, it's above 8. I'm sorry. It's 9 or above. I'm going to just roll that here because I have all the sheets up. He rolls a 14. And much like all his other checks, he converts it. So he's 3 of 5 to get that up to a one more level. So that is Martin done. The only one that I'm thinking of taking must be all the hair. Otherwise, I would just plow them into tactics and his weapon skill. Tactics, because it'd be nice to get those tactics up to the point where we are rolling it actually successfully a couple times, because that will help us in fights by giving us a reroll. And you can't beat a reroll. You just can't. That is literally one of the best options we could have, is to get rerolls. But let's take must be all the hair. Nope, I don't like how that worked. Let's try that again. BYU. Every so often, yeah. When FWA bear skin gets armor value 2. So the arms primarily. So the interesting thing is, and I think that that might be a waste. We could just go buy him arms. You know what? We could just go. You know what? We're not going to take that. Screw that. That's a bad choice. That is a suboptimal choice. We essentially, because he's not like going for like a Viking berserker kind of vibe. So screw it. We're going to go buy armor at some point. And so I think that's fine. I think we can live without that. We're going to plow these into tactics first. And so I'm going to say at least 3 of these bad boys go into tactics. So let's start there. Now he needs to roll a 9 or above. Now I'm going to do this one on camera because he's been so unlucky. Right? So he's got 3 of these to do. He needs a 9 or above. That's 1 success, 1 fail, 2 successes. So at the very least, he converted 2 of 3, which is about what I would say, So he's got 3 there. And I'm going to put 3 into his weapon skill. So he's going to train a bit while he's here. So that's 1 is a success, 2 is a success, 3 is a fail. So he gets 2 out of 3 again. There you go. And so that looks better. So we've spent experience. We have gotten loot. We have made a deal with our deal with the innkeeper. I'm going to say that it is now. That's about a week's worth, right? So it's going to be May 12th as we continue, and we have to have the discussion. And we will probably have it next episode about what exactly are they going to do now. What did Martin learn, and what are our folks going to do? So yeah, so we did experience. Rorik, I should say Rorik. I'll say trains and cavorts, right? For 50p, and that equals 1 free check. He does get a free. I love the rules in Shadowdark, by the way, where you essentially spend money to get experience by carousing. This is very much low key version of that. He gets one free check. We do experience, perk options, and R&M. End up spending 1 week at the end. And it is now May 12th. Done. And I think, I apologize for the, the just all the mechanical cleanup or whatever. But there you go. We did our downtime. We did our cleanup. We've gotten everything settled. I think next episode, we're going to immediately start into the discussion about what they're going to do. And then we're going to get them moved on to the next thing and start there. So thank you for watching. This has been episode 8, Tidying Up. And, if you please like the video, subscribe. I have a Ko-Fi page or Coffee or whatever the heck it's called. So please go look that up as well if you want to support our channel. What I'm working on currently on the channel is a little quote unquote studio for tabletop gaming, so we can actually play on a table with a camera and so on. So we'll be working on that, and that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. So check all that out, please. Thank you very much, and I will see you all later.